Every holiday, my husband's parent used guilt to force us to cancel our plans, saying, if you don't come, we'll never forgive you. My husband sighed, it's just one day. I smiled, held up 2 plane tickets, and said, then you won't mind if we leave tonight. Their fake tears stopped instantly. I'm 38, my husband is 40. We live in Seattle. We've been married 12 years. No kids. We both have stable jobs. I work in accounting. He works in tech. And until recently, we had never, not once, spent a holiday the way we actually wanted to. Because every single time a holiday came around, his parents would swoop in with guilt, pressure, and emotional blackmail. It didn't matter what we planned. A weekend getaway, a trip with friends, time with my side of the family, it didn't matter. They always found a way to ruin it. It started small. The first year we were married, we tried to spend Thanksgiving just the two of us. I had this whole plan. My mom gave me her sweet potato casserole recipe, and I wanted to recreate it. Paul was excited. Until his mom called. She didn't ask if we were coming. She just assumed. Told us what time dinner was. Said his cousins were so excited to see him. I gently explained that we weren't planning to drive down to Eugene this year. Silence. Then the dramatic sigh. Then the voice crack. Oh, I see. Well, I guess we'll just be here. Alone. If that's what you want. It was like someone had shot a puppy. Paul caved. We canceled our plans. We drove 5 hours. I brought the casserole anyway. She never even served it. And that set the tone. Every Christmas, Easter, 4th of July, Memorial Day, even Labor Day somehow turned into a family obligation. If we made plans, they'd call crying. If we said no, they'd talk about how we don't value family. If we held our ground, they'd accuse me of changing him. And every time Paul would just say, it's just one day, Sam. It's not worth the fight. But it was never one day. Let me tell you what, just one day at Ruth and Gary's looked like. It meant driving 5 hours on a Friday after work, sleeping in Paul's old bedroom on a twin mattress, listening to his mom nitpick everything I said, pretending to love her overcooked turkey, watching her cry at the dinner table because Paul doesn't call enough, staying an extra day because we never see you anymore. And every time we left, there was guilt. She'd hug him for too long. She'd whisper, please don't make this the last time. They treated every visit like we were saying goodbye forever. They even started faking emergencies. I wish I were exaggerating. One Easter, we planned to go camping with friends. 2 days before we left, we got a call. Ruth was in the ER. She had a severe allergic reaction. She said she almost died. We canceled everything. Left at 10 p.m., drove through the night. We showed up at the hospital at 4 a.m. The nurse at the front desk looked confused. Ruth had been released hours earlier. She was home resting. We drove to their house. She was sitting up in bed eating toast. She said she was fine now. Just needed Paul near her. That's when I knew this wasn't just family pressure. This was control. And my husband, he didn't see it. Not really. He saw it as family being family. But to me, it was manipulation. The moment everything changed was the Christmas before last. Paul and I had finally agreed we were spending the holiday alone. Just us. We'd booked a small Airbnb cabin near Lake Tahoe. Fireplace, snow, peace. We told his parents 2 months ahead. Gave them time to adjust. They didn't. They called every week with a new angle. We already bought a ham. Who's going to eat it? Your aunt is flying in just to see you. We might not have many Christmases left. I ignored it. Paul started to feel guilty. 2 weeks before the trip, Ruth fell. Slipped on her back porch. Said she hurt her hip. Sent a blurry photo of a bruise on her leg. Said she couldn't move without pain. Gary called the next day crying. I don't know what to do. I can't handle her like this. She needs you, Paul. Paul was quiet for a long time after that call. Then he turned to me, looking defeated. It's just one day. Something inside me snapped. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I stood up, walked into the bedroom, and came back with a folder. Inside were 2 plane tickets. I had booked them 6 weeks earlier. I held them up. Then you won't mind if we leave tonight. Paul blinked like he didn't understand. Wait, what is this? We're going to San Diego. My sister's place. We leave at 9. You booked this without telling me? Yes, because every time we try to plan anything, your parents blow it up. I was tired of waiting. He didn't say anything. So I kept going. You say it's just one day, but it's not. It's our entire holiday. Every time. We don't get to have our own life. And I'm done with that. Still silence. You don't have to come. I'm not forcing you. But I'm going. He packed a bag. Didn't say a word on the ride there. Didn't check his phone. Just sat quietly. At the gate, he finally spoke. What if they don't forgive me? I looked him straight in the face. Then maybe they never did in the first place. He didn't reply. just nodded. We boarded. The next morning, we sat on my sister's deck. Ocean breeze, coffee, the sound of waves. It felt like we were finally breathing. I called Ruth. She answered on the second ring. Paul? Nope. It's Sam. Where are you? I thought you were coming. I'm in San Diego. Silence. Paul's there too. Yep. More silence. Then came the fake sobbing. I fell, Sam. I'm still bruised. He said he'd come. Well, we needed a break. It's Christmas. We're taking time for ourselves. You've poisoned him against us. Click. She hung up. After Ruth hung up, Paul stared out at the ocean. He didn't say much for the rest of the day. My sister gave him space. I gave him space. He wasn't angry, but you could see the wheels turning in his head. The next day, his phone started blowing up. 10 missed calls. 7 voicemails. Countless texts. At first, it was the usual. We just want to talk. Please call your mother. This is tearing us apart. Then it got worse. You've abandoned your family. She's been crying nonstop. You're destroying everything good in your life. Paul listened to one voicemail and deleted the rest. The next day, they sent a group email to the entire extended family. Cousins, aunts, uncles, even distant relatives we barely talk to. The subject line: Paul and Sam have broken the family. I wish I were making this up. They wrote a whole letter talking about how we walked out on Christmas, how Ruth spent the day in pain alone, and how Gary was so emotionally shattered he couldn't carve the ham. Yes, seriously, the ham. They even added, it's clear Sam has taken full control of Paul's life. We worry about his mental health and independence. People we hadn't heard from in years started messaging Paul. One cousin sent him this gem: I get you want to live your life, but maybe don't abandon the people who raised you. Another one messaged me, not to get in the middle, but this seems harsh. I didn't respond. Paul did. He replied to the family email with just 4 words. This is not okay. 3 weeks later, Ruth and Gary showed up in Seattle. Unannounced. We were coming back from a grocery run when we saw their car in front of our house. I stopped walking. Paul froze. No, they didn't. They did. Ruth was standing on the porch like a ghost from a bad dream, arms crossed, coat too big for her frame like she wanted to look weaker than she was. Gary stood beside her, fake smile, holding a pie. Surprise. I didn't speak. Paul stepped forward. Why are you here? We came to talk. You wouldn't answer. Because you've crossed every line. You shamed us in front of our family. We are your family. Then why do you treat us like property? I stood behind Paul and said nothing. Ruth started crying. I just wanted Christmas with my son. Gary stepped in. Can we please come in? We drove 5 hours. Paul looked at me. I shook my head once. No, he said. No, Ruth gasped. Are you serious? You don't get to show up and force your way in. Not anymore. We're your parents. And I'm a grown man. Gary's voice dropped. If you shut us out like this, we're done. Don't expect us to be around when you come to your senses. Paul didn't even flinch. Then I guess this is goodbye. They stood there for a moment like they couldn't believe it. Ruth's crying stopped instantly. Just stopped. Like someone flipped a switch. She looked me dead in the eye. You'll regret this. Then they got in the car and drove away. The next week, Paul got a call from HR at his job. Someone had reported him. Said he was unstable, possibly under the influence, and mentally unfit to manage clients. HR said they were required to follow up, but reassured him that his record was spotless and they weren't taking it seriously unless more came in. Still, Paul was shocked. Who would say something like that? The timing was too perfect. We both knew. He called his sister, Dana. Dana still talked to their parents. They had her wrapped up in their drama, but in a quieter way. Paul asked her straight, did mom or dad say anything to anyone about my job? Silence. Then, they may have mentioned you were struggling. I didn't know they'd go that far. Paul hung up. He turned to me, voice shaking. They're trying to destroy me. Something broke in Paul after that. Not sadness. Not fear. Just clarity. He started therapy that week. Found a counselor who specialized in family trauma. He told her everything. She told him what I'd known for years. This is emotional abuse. And it's not your job to fix them. For the first time, Paul didn't excuse it. Didn't defend them. Didn't say, they're just like that. He saw it. Really saw it. And he wasn't going back. A few weeks after the HR stunt, things went quiet. Almost too quiet. We figured they'd finally backed off. Then a certified letter arrived. Addressed to Paul. From a law firm. Inside was a formal notice. Gary and Ruth were demanding repayment. Apparently, they had kept a ledger of all financial support they gave Paul over the years. College tuition, down payment on his first car, even emotional labor. They listed it all. The total? $41,530. This is the value of the life we gave you, the letter said. They demanded he pay it back in monthly installments starting immediately, or they'd consider taking him to small claims court. We stared at the paper in silence. Paul looked stunned. Just blank. They're serious. You think they actually filed this? No, but they want me to panic. That's when I remembered something. A few years ago, Paul refinanced his student loans and mentioned needing old financial aid records. He'd found a weird discrepancy. Said some of the loans his parents took out on his behalf were actually in their names, not his. So I dug. I pulled up his financial records. Old loan statements. I matched dates. I compared the letter. And then I saw it. They had lied. Most of what they claimed to have paid for weren't even in Paul's name. Ruth and Gary had taken out Parent Plus loans, which meant they were responsible, not Paul. Not legally. Not ethically. They had built this entire guilt tower on fraudulent debt. At the same time, I got a DM on Facebook from Paul's cousin Jen. Jen had been looped into the family email drama earlier, but she stayed quiet. Until now. She wrote, "Hey, just so you know, Ruth has been telling people that you're going to divorce Paul. She said you're unstable, controlling, dangerous. She told my mom you were probably going to take the house from him and leave." I read it 3 times before showing Paul. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then he opened his laptop. He wrote one email. It wasn't angry. It was clinical. He addressed Ruth and Gary directly. He attached a scanned copy of the legal notice they had sent. He added red marks to all the items they misrepresented. He included screenshots from federal loan websites proving the loans were in their name. He wrote, "This is fraudulent. You know it. You tried to use money you spent willingly to guilt and control me. I won't allow it anymore. Do not contact me again. If you do, I'll file for a protective order and pursue legal options for harassment." He CC'd the entire family. Every cousin. Every aunt. Every distant uncle. Then he hit send. It was like setting off a nuclear bomb. Half the family exploded. Some sided with Paul, thanking him for finally saying something. Turns out Ruth and Gary had pulled similar guilt tactics on others. The other half? Turned on us. Called us disrespectful. Said we humiliated 2 good people. Paul blocked them all. We thought we'd reached the end. Until the next twist. One day, we got a call from a woman named Beth. She worked for an insurance company. She asked to speak with Paul. She sounded confused. "Hi, this is strange, but I'm calling about a life insurance policy you're listed on. It was recently changed. You're no longer the beneficiary." Paul paused. "I didn't know I was listed at all." Beth confirmed his parents had taken out a policy years ago, without telling him, and listed him as the primary beneficiary. Now, they'd switched it to someone named Rebecca. Paul sat up straight. "Wait, Rebecca who?" Turns out Rebecca was Gary's niece. A woman we barely knew. Lived in Utah. Hadn't seen her in 10 years. They were rewriting their estate, cutting Paul out and handing it to someone else. And for what? Control. They wanted him to come crawling back. But we didn't crawl. Paul changed our phone numbers. Shut down his old email. We installed a camera on our front door. He took out his own will, his own insurance, and named my sister and I as legal contacts, just to make sure if anything ever happened, they wouldn't get to manipulate the situation. We were building a fortress. But the biggest twist? It came from someone we never expected. Paul's sister, Dana, texted him out of the blue. "I need to tell you something." But not over text. They met up at a coffee shop in Capitol Hill. Dana looked nervous. She kept glancing over her shoulder like someone might be watching. Then she told him, "Mom's been recording your calls. For years. She used to play them back. To analyze your tone. Sometimes she'd record our calls too. Said she was building a file in case you ever tried to cut her out." Paul didn't say a word. He just stared at her. Dana looked guilty. I didn't know what to do. I didn't stop her. "I'm sorry. But that's not all." She pulled out an old notebook. Inside were handwritten notes, dates, times, phone call summaries. Little things Ruth had written down. Who Paul called. When he called. Things he said. Even things I said in the background. It was a surveillance log. She gave it to Paul. "I found it when I was helping them move boxes last year. I took it. You need to know what they're capable of." Paul didn't talk for hours after Dana gave him that notebook. He went through every page. Dates going back 6 years. Phone calls, arguments, my voice transcribed in pencil. Times I didn't even know they were listening. He found one entry that broke him. "Paul sounds weak lately. Sam must be isolating him." Another one, "If he tries to cut us off, we'll remind him what we paid for." And another, Sam got a new haircut. Probably wants attention. Typical. He stared at the page like it was written in blood. He didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. Paul decided something had to be done publicly. Not out of revenge, but for truth. We weren't going to press charges. We weren't going to sue. But we were going to take back control. So we planned a family meeting. Not with Ruth and Gary alone. With everyone they had poisoned against us. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even Rebecca from Utah. Paul asked Dana to help organize it. She agreed. We rented a neutral space community room at a library in Portland. It felt safe. Professional. No wine glasses to throw. We called it a family update. We walked in and saw about 20 people sitting in a circle. Some looked confused. Others annoyed. Ruth and Gary sat at the center like royalty. Ruth smiled when she saw Paul. Finally ready to come to your senses? Paul didn't answer. He walked to the front and opened a folder. Inside was a copy of the letter demanding $41,000. The email they sent shaming us. Screenshots of the insurance beneficiary change. A page from Ruth's notebook with the surveillance notes. And finally, a transcript of one of the voicemails they left calling me a parasite. He handed copies to everyone. No one said a word. Then he looked up. His voice didn't shake. This is what they've done. This is what they've said. And this is who they really are. He turned to Ruth. You've lied. Manipulated. Recorded my calls. Tried to destroy my marriage and even risked my job. You didn't raise me to be strong. You raised me to be afraid of you. Gasps. A few people leaned forward in their chairs. Ruth's face went red. Gary stood. This is slander. Paul turned to him. You wrote the letter. You called HR. You told people I was mentally unstable. Gary clenched his jaw. You were brainwashed by her. He pointed at me. None of this happened until she came along. That's when Ruth snapped. She stood up, knocked her chair back. You ungrateful child. We gave you everything. We sacrificed our lives for you. And you repay us with shame? With this public circus? She looked around at the family, desperate. He doesn't mean it. He's sick. She poisoned him. Dana stood slowly. No, Mom. He's not sick. You are. The room went still. Dana stepped forward and took out her own folder. I made copies too. Emails. Messages. Notes. She passed them around. I was silent for too long. I helped them lie. I defended them. I thought it was just how family worked. I was wrong. And I'm sorry. Ruth looked like she'd been slapped. She sat back down slowly. And for the first time, she didn't cry. She just stared ahead, blinking fast. Half the room looked stunned. One uncle stood up. I knew you two were manipulative, but this is evil. Another cousin, who once told Paul he was overreacting, walked over and hugged him. I'm sorry. I didn't see it. Rebecca looked genuinely shaken. They told me Paul was in a bad place. That he asked to be cut out of the will. Paul laughed, bitter. They've been rewriting the story for years. Ruth and Gary said nothing. Not a word. They just left. Got up and walked out. No apology. No denial. Nothing. They went full no contact after that. Removed Paul and Dana from every legal document. Changed numbers. Blocked us on social media. Told neighbors we were estranged. But the silence was peaceful. We kept the notebooks. Just in case. Paul's therapist said closure doesn't come from the other person. It comes when you stop needing their apology. He stopped needing it. Dana moved to Seattle. She's close with us now. The family? Split. But the ones who matter stuck around. The ones who didn't? They were never really on our side. It's been over a year since that day. We travel now. Holidays are ours. Last Christmas we lit a fire and stayed in pajamas all day. No calls. No guilt. Just quiet joy. Sometimes Paul still flinches when he hears his phone ring. But he's healing. He learned that being good doesn't mean being obedient. And I learned that walking away isn't weakness. It's freedom.